Hey everyone, Alex Sanchez here, mortgage loan officer with Planted Local Lending. In today's video, we want to talk about what are some things that you can do as a real estate agent to help pre-screen your buyers to see whether or not they'll be able to qualify for a new loan to purchase a home. To get started, let's take a look at those three aspects that a loan officer looks at to see whether or not a buyer can qualify for a new home. Those three things are your credit, your income, and your money for your down payment. With your credit, what a mortgage loan officer looks at is, most importantly, your credit score. What is your credit score? A loan officer is going to pull what's called a tri-merge credit report that's going to show a score from all three credit bureaus to determine what is your true qualifying credit score with a mortgage lender. To qualify for a mortgage, we look at your middle score between those three bureaus. So a lot of times we may ask a buyer up front, what do you think your credit score is? Odds are the score that they have comes from Credit Karma or Experian.com. That may just be showing one or two of the scores from the credit bureaus, but a mortgage loan officer is going to look at all three scores to know whether or not they can qualify. So one good question you can ask your buyer is, when was the last time you had your credit checked? Maybe they applied for a new car earlier that year or last year, and you can ask them, what was your score then? If they tell you their score was in the mid 700s, let's say, a follow-up question could be, have you had any missed payments between then and now? If their answer is no, then they probably have a really good credit score. If they say, yes, I missed some of my car payments, then their score may not be where they think it really is. So as a realtor, having that first conversation about your client's credit, that may be a great starting point. What do you think your credit score is? And when was the last time you had it checked? Another thing that we look at as a loan officer, and this is one of the most important aspects, is the buyer's income. Is their income stable? And is their income consistent? Those are two things that we look at to know whether or not someone's monthly income can be used to qualify for a new mortgage. What exactly do I mean by income being stable and consistent? Let's look at some examples. Let's say you have a client that comes to you trying to buy a house and you ask them, where do you work? And they tell you, I work at NASA and I make six figures. I'm making the boo-hoo bucks, That's great. It sounds to me like you'll be able to qualify no problem. But if you ask the question, how long have you been working there at NASA? And they tell you, I just started this month. Might be a great idea to ask that follow-up question. Well, where did you work at before starting at NASA? Right? If they tell you that they were a greeter at Walmart for the last 11 years, and now all of a sudden they're making over six figures working at NASA, well, that doesn't really make sense. How do you go from working as a greeter at Walmart to making well over six figures as an engineer or whatever at NASA, right? That isn't very stable. Now, let's say your client says, I'm making well over six figures, and I have a history of working the same line of work, working this amount of hours, this amount of income each year, each month. Well, then that's a little bit more stable. Your borrower or your buyer has a history of earning that level of income. If we cannot prove that they have a history of earning this new level of income, it's going to be really hard to make an argument that their income is stable enough to be used to qualify. Another thing we look at is consistency when it comes to income. If your buyer tells you, I am a full-time employee, I make a salary every 2 weeks, and they know exactly how much they bring in, that's pretty consistent. We know exactly how much that buyer is going to be bringing in every 2 weeks or every month, whatever their salary is. However, if you have a client that tells you, I work a job that's based off commissions earnings only, follow-up question might be, how long have you been earning these commissions for? If it's been 2 or 3 years, then it's pretty consistent. You can prove that you've been earning commission for a long period of time. It's gonna be a lot easier to qualify you. If you say, hey, I just started this commission job last month and I don't have a history of earning commissions before, it's going to be really hard to try to get you an approval because we cannot prove that consistent income stream. So again, when it comes to asking your buyer about their income, It's really important to know what their income history looks like, because that way you can check off, is their income stable and is it consistent? Last touch point I want to talk on about income is they need to have a job or some sort of active income stream in order to qualify. For example, we've had many clients that reach out to us. I'm located in the state of Michigan. There's a lot of people that want to move up to Michigan from the state of Florida, for example. If that's happening, the first question I ask them is, what is your income going to look like after this move? If they're a full-time employee working down in the state of Florida, that's great. I'm glad that they're getting a lot of income. They can save up for this new move. But we need to ask that question. Once you move to the state of Michigan, what are you going to be doing for income there? Is your job transferring you to a new location? Are you under contract to start a new job elsewhere? We need to know these things, because if you're full-time in Florida but living in Michigan, how are you going to be continuing that income stream? So as a real estate agent, if you ever have a client who is relocating to a new state, it's really important that you ask them, how is your income going to continue once you make this move? There's nothing worse than helping a new client relocate from one state to another, but then find out once they get in through underwriting, they don't qualify because they can't prove where their new income is going to be coming from. I hope these are some helpful tips for you. And of course, we are here to answer any questions you have about these scenarios. So if you have a strange one-off credit scenario, income scenario, asset scenario for down payments, run it by us. We are the experts. We are here to help you. But this is just great information for you to know, just so you can pre-screen your buyers firsthand and make sure that they are going to be well qualified once you pass them off to a loan officer. Thanks again.